So, hi guys. Yeah, out in the field again, and this time with the Alien, which I put a KISS FC inside. Now, very briefly on the subject, I was led to believe by forum posts that putting in the KISS FC would be easy, that setting it up and flying with stock pits would be better than what you would normally achieve with Betaflight Clean Flight. My first experience was that I enabled the air mode, everything in the settings, just left everything stock. I then punched the throttle a bit just to get it up in the air, just a little bit, and it just went sideways flipping straight into a tree. I then figured out that I had mounted the PCB the wrong way, because apparently there is half an arrow, not a full arrow, showing the direction of the board, so I wasn't sure. And after that, it actually seems to work. I will say though that I was expecting it, and this is probably me, but from reading all these posts, I was expecting it to fly really nicely. And instead it flew nicely, but it flew like an old broken truck that had diarrhea. It was just so slow. So I had to go and fix some rates inside the software, and I'll give my rate settings later, and I'll probably tune them here as well. So now I'm out, and I'm actually I'm very curious. I haven't flown one bit yet, so we'll see how it goes. Probably crash horribly. Yeah, I was just thrown away from the other spot. I mean, these two places belong to people training dogs. I saw somebody coming, and then normally there's nobody here. So I went down and I just talked to them. And I think this is very good advice. Just tell them that you were about to fly and you saw them, so you didn't want to fly. Their reaction was, oh, it's okay. We're going to go over here. And I was like, yeah, but this makes a lot of noise. And they were like, yeah, we're training our dogs to ignore noise. So make noise. I like this. All right, let's do the first flight. Okay, not what I expected. Yeah. Well, basically, let me disconnect the battery. Basically, it flies very well. It flies very smoothly, but it's very slow still. I upped the rates quite a bit, I think. So I want more. Also, it did some things I don't understand. It was like it was dipping with the tail. After I did something, it was like going. Wah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect it to the flight controller, to the Chrome GUI, and I'm actually going to disable air mode and just take off again and see if this feels different, because it feels like something's going on that I don't like. So let's see. Okay, so well, it wasn't flying very good. So what I've done now is I've gone back to KISS firmware 1.01, the one that it usually ships with. I actually had RC20C, a beta version of the firmware on, because somebody on the forum advised me to do so, and for some reason this doesn't really work for me. So now I've done some testing with the 101 firmware. I'm now going to enable air mode, test a bit more, and then I'm going to take a flight. So we'll see. Okay, seems to be working good. Let's do a flight with air mode on, and just some basic PID settings basically. I've got the rate up to 0.8, 0.8, and the curve 0.1. So. Well, that sucked balls. It's just not flying very good. Honestly, I had better performance out of Betaflight right off the get-go, which I'm sorry to say. I don't know what's wrong, actually. So I'm going to tinker around and I'll let you know what happens. Okay, so I did one thing right now that actually felt better. I changed the LPF frequency, which I understand is some sort of filtering to make everything smoother, from high, I believe, to off. And there's like 8 stages all the way down, and this feels much better. So it could be that just interferes. I don't know. I'm gonna put on the head plays and go for a spin. So let's see. Okay, let's disconnect this socket first. Okay, that was actually a lot better. I don't know why. I think the filtering is too aggressive, maybe. I don't know. Either way, right now the problem seems to be that I don't have enough. I have too little. I have to move the sticks too much. So I'm gonna up the rates a bit and lower the curve a bit, because I believe that's how I will get more responsive movement. I still think that sometimes it does a small dive or something. It could be the air mode, it could be the firmware, but it could also be the props I'm using. But I'm still just gonna test with the same props, which are yellow TJ, I think 5040 props, DAL props. So not my favorite, but they're good for testing anyway. So let's see. Okay, did you see that? So for some reason, one or the other, sometimes it just dives, or actually feels like when I'm accelerating that it's going, I actually can't remember right now, but it's going a bit nose up or a bit nose down. I'm 100% sure it's my problem, but I have to figure it out. So I have two options right now. One is that I'm gonna begin messing about with PIDs, because these are completely stock PIDs. Another one is selecting another preset and just see how that fares right off the bat, because there are some other presets which are kind of close but have some stuff altered. That could be a solution for a better starting point. And the last one is actually changing the props. Oh, that's a hard one because I don't like changing props. I'm going to change the props. Okay, so changed to hqprops, actually a Mr. Steel version. The red, they were in stock, so fuck it. Didn't change anything else. I just figured this is a good way of testing if the issues I was experienced before actually came from the props, and if the whole quad actually behaves differently, because I've kind of noticed this before with the DAL props. Sometimes they just behave erratically. So let's try. Finally, some fucking redemption. Okay, that actually went quite nice. I had none of the issues from before, so it was the props, I guess. I've read this before. I just kind of got too stubborn to believe it. Let me just disconnect the bat. Yeah, no, I disconnected it. Shut up, man. I was just too stubborn to believe that a prop that is slightly out of sync can actually do so much. But that's the lesson I'm going to take home from today. One of many, because everything just seemed so perfect right now. I could feel some stuff I didn't feel before. If you see the video, if I include it in the video I'm making, then the jaw movement was violent. So it's interesting to note for me that before with the other props, I was actually raising rates and I was lowering curve in order to get a more sharp throttle stick response. Just putting these props on feels like it's twice as nimble as the other thing, and I guess that's because everything is syncing up. So if in doubt, check your props, definitely. So now I'm gonna go back inside the software, and I think I'm actually going to select another profile which has increased pits. It's the one called 18 to 25 centimeters, which this quad is under. So I have no idea how that's going to work, but I just want to test it out. And if that goes good, I'll build on it from there and start tuning. If it goes bad, I'm going to go back to the build I have right now and actually try to increase the pits myself. So very exciting.